Hello and welcome to Things Very Good. I am Cy, and today we are going to be looking at nutrition made simple. Gil, or Dr. Gil, is a nutritionist and an MD, and as you can see here, he's talking about meat, vegan, cholesterol, eggs, B12, and iron. And we're going to watch a little of his video. And the reason we're doing this is because at Things Very Good, my goal is to help you sort through the information on health and find what really works for you and become truly healthy. And there's some questions about what Gil, our nutritionist, is saying. So let's go ahead and have a look.
This week we're going to tackle some common questions that just keep coming up over and over again. So let's try to get some actual answers. Vámonos. It's a very common idea. Seems like there's a study out there for every possible position. So I guess every opinion's worth the same and everything's meaningless, so I'll just eat whatever I want. Of course, that's based on a misunderstanding. Nutrition science.
I kind of have felt this way for a long time, so I can relate here. There's a study out there for everything. You can kind of find what you want to support your beliefs, and you can use that to support almost anything.
Science is not decided by individual studies in a vacuum. I actually just recorded a podcast where I discussed this exact topic with the host at length, so I'll add a link to the description below if you want to check it out. The bottom line is we got to look at all the evidence, what we call the preponderance of the evidence in nerd speak.
Preponderance.
To be able to see the trends, to see where the errors are generally pointing to. That's how the experts come up with the guidelines. They have to go over hundreds, thousands of studies. They don't pluck out one study randomly from the literature and then they all disagree and they all battle to the death or something.
I can agree with this part here. Let's go ahead and speed the video up a little bit so it'll take us less time to get through it.
Although that would be a lot more fun to watch. If this is a little confusing, if it's not quite making sense, here's an example. During the 20th century, when scientists were studying tobacco and lung cancer, the vast majority of studies showed a link, but a couple didn't. So does that mean that tobacco and lung cancer is still a controversial topic? That any opinion is valid? No. It means that when you run 1,000 studies, some are not going to be statistically significant. That's just inherent to the variability. Maybe they didn't have enough people, maybe they didn't follow them long enough. There's 1,000 explanations. The bottom line is we need to look at all the evidence to be able to see the trends, not pluck out one observation and extrapolate. Make sense?
Right. We need to look at the preponderance of evidence, as he said before.
Next. If we go by media headlines, it does look like that sometimes. But that's how they get their clicks. If the headline was, scientists agree broccoli is a really healthy food, nobody's reading that. It's not surprising. So the newsmakers have to look for shock value. Cancer linked to Brussels sprouts. Your coffee may be giving you Alzheimer's. Or their absolute favorite. New study shows everything you thought you knew about X is wrong. That's not science. That's salesmanship. The flashy
I'm sure you guys have seen this before. These clickbait headlines, of course, just so people can get views, which is understandable. They want to get your views. But it can be misleading, especially if you're just reading the headlines.
That's what spreads like wildfire. The correction, the nuance, the clarification, nobody cares. So the truth is, nutrition experts are in agreement on 95%, and nutrition advice doesn't change that much. A little bit here and there as we learn more, but not fundamentally. The fundamentals have been essentially the same for years, and actually, a lot of it for decades.
Saturated fat
raises our cholesterol levels and our risk of heart disease. That's established, and I've made videos covering that in detail. Now, a few years ago, a couple of studies came out that claimed saturated fat made no difference. Obviously, the media jumped all over it, and that created a lot of confusion. Bottom line is saturated fat raises your risk of heart disease, but it's not the only food that does it. So it depends what you replace it with. If you lower your saturated fat and you eat more fruits and vegetables, yeah, your risk of heart disease is going to come down. But
okay, so he's saying that if you eat more fruits and vegetables, your heart disease risk is going to come down. It probably does depend on what else you're eating with your fruits and vegetables, but let's look a little bit more here.
If you swap your saturated fat for Twinkies, you're not going to see a benefit. They're both bad. So any study that doesn't make that distinction and just lumps everything together can be misleading. When that distinction is made, the difference is clear. So bottom line is we do want to go easy on the saturated fat, but we want to replace it with healthy food, not other bad stuff. Make sense? Next. There's nothing special about eggs.
So there's nothing special about eggs. Okay. So he's saying that right off the bat. Let's hear what else he has to say.
Fundamentally different. They're an animal source food, so they're going to be relatively high in cholesterol and saturated fat. Now, there's nothing in eggs that we can't get somewhere else, so we definitely don't need them. But that fact alone...
Okay, so he says there's nothing in eggs that we can't get somewhere else. We definitely don't need them. That's where my question comes up for him. First question, not saying that you do need them, but are there things in eggs that you can't get somewhere else? Is that possible? Or is the type of those nutrients in the eggs more easy for your body to use than other types of foods.
Doesn't necessarily tell us that they're bad. So, are they good or bad? Well, it depends what you compare them to. It's just like saturated fat. They're not the healthiest food out there by any stretch of the imagination. They're not the best breakfast option, but they're also not the worst. So if we're talking oatmeal and fruit, yeah, that's going to be more health promoting.
Okay, now when he says oatmeal and fruit are more health promoting, that's where my big questions come in. So right now, he's starting to sound like I sounded 10 years ago. Like, he could literally be me, because this is what I was saying as a vegan for the most part, and with the exception of sometimes eating some dairy product like milk or cheese, which was a rare thing for about 19 years for me to eat anything even dairy related. And there was more of the time when I was a strict vegan. So that being said, now he's saying that oatmeal is more healthful than eggs. And so that's where the question starts to come up for me, because he's not considering certain things that have been brought into the public eye more so recently, and that is about anti-nutrients in things like grains. I'm not saying grains are bad, and cooking them does change them, but let's see more what he has to say.
But if we're talking sausage and bacon, you're probably better off eating your eggs, to be honest. The frequency also plays an important role. If you eat eggs once or twice a month, that's not going to be a big deal physiologically, because your body has time to rectify the peak of cholesterol and whatever else goes up. But if you eat eggs 3 times a day, that's a whole different story. So everything in nutrition is relative. It depends on your goals and your risk tolerance.
Do eggs really raise
yes.
cholesterol?
Studies have clearly shown that effect. But
yes, eggs definitely do raise cholesterol. Whether that's bad or good might still be out for the jury.
Exact magnitude,
or the jury might still be out on that.
That size of the effect varies from person to person, just like anything else. Now, there's some studies out there funded by the egg industry that have a lot of people confused. One trick they use is they look at people who already have very high blood cholesterol levels from the get-go. So adding one more extra egg on top doesn't make much of a difference. This led to this general idea you see sometimes out there in the blogosphere that the cholesterol you eat has nothing to do with your blood cholesterol levels. That's smoke and mirrors.
Yes, it is true. If you eat no foods that contain cholesterol, your cholesterol will drop. And then if you add cholesterol foods back into your diet, for sure, you will raise your cholesterol. And he's also saying that if a person adds an egg into their diet and they already eat a high cholesterol diet, then it might not make a big difference, which that could be used to say that, yeah, eggs won't raise your cholesterol. Yeah, definitely, eggs will raise your cholesterol. That's not my issue here.
Eating cholesterol raises your blood cholesterol up to a high level where it starts to plateau, it starts to level off. But you don't want to be in those ranges anyway. By the way, saturated fat is the exact same thing, but even stronger than dietary cholesterol. So the more saturated fat you eat, the higher your blood cholesterol level, up to that very high range where it starts to level off. So the truth is, if you have a cholesterol issue, then cutting back on the eggs and other animal foods that are rich in cholesterol and saturated fat helps.
That's true. If you have a cholesterol issue, cutting back on those foods will help.
The experts are in agreement that raising our HDL, what people call our good cholesterol, doesn't really help. It doesn't lower our risk of heart disease. I've made videos on this before going over the details. So a food that raises both your bad cholesterol, your LDL, and your good cholesterol, your HDL, is just bad news. So we want to go.
Now that's where the question starts to come in for me. He is saying that HDL that it's not good if your HDL cholesterol goes up. He's saying that it doesn't make a difference what the ratio is. And I did listen to another video from him about this subject. And so basically he's saying it makes no difference whatsoever. However, he does say it makes a difference that the higher HDL in combination with overall cholesterol is better than if you have low HDL with higher cholesterol. And he says that it's just a ratio thing, but people shouldn't go to raise their HDL, which I agree with. But that's not what my issue is. So he's basically saying it makes no difference, even though a ratio of cholesterol seems to make a difference to multiple people in the health industry and to other MDs I've listened to. He says it makes no difference at all. So what does the science really say? That's what I have. One of the questions I have for you, Gil Carvalho, is can you show us the evidence that it makes no difference at all? Can you actually show us the evidence that it doesn't make a difference, that cholesterol ratio doesn't make a difference, and show us where these other people are wrong? I'd also like to call out Bart Kay, the Nutrition Science Watchdog, to look at Gil Carvalho here and just break down what he's saying, because he feels kind of the opposite of what Gil MD feels. So let's go further.
Easy on those. I used to have this exact same question, and I actually ate meat most of my life, into my 30s. The truth is we don't. We can be very healthy without meat.
Okay, now here's where my issue comes in. Do we need to eat meat to be healthy? So my question for you, Gil Carvalho, for real, is, and with all respect, are you, Gil Carvalho, a vegan? And if you're not a vegan, how do you know that eating meat is completely unnecessary to be optimally healthy? And that is my issue. That's my question is, should somebody who's not a vegan be recommending a completely meat-free vegan diet if they haven't actually experienced it for themselves? And I'm asking this because even if the science makes it look like you have an overall lower mortality risk or death risk if you eat a vegan diet, what is the reason for that? Is it just related to heart disease? Are there other factors we're not considering? And why are there so many people that are quitting veganism? Upon doing a little more research, I did find out that it seems that Gil Carvalho is most likely vegan. And I do like that he's preaching veganism and at least he's a vegan. However, he's probably biased just like I was.
Or even any animal product. At the same time, if I choose to eat some animal products, that doesn't automatically mean I'm unhealthy. It depends on a number of factors. The type, the amount, the frequency, my genetics, other lifestyle factors, etc. Some people can get away with more than others. That's life. So it's a choice. Don't let anybody tell you that you need to eat meat, otherwise you...
See what he said? He said, it's a choice. Don't let anybody tell you that you need to eat meat. That's where my issue is. Don't let anybody tell you that you need to eat meat. Now, if he was a vegan, I could say, okay, I can understand where you're coming from, but I don't think he's a vegan. So let's just go ahead and go further.
Wither away and you'll crumble to dust and your limbs will fall off. There's no science behind that. There's no nutrient in meat that we can find somewhere else. We'll talk more about risks in a minute, but it is absolutely a choice.
It's absolutely a choice, he says. What about protein?
Every animal food has protein. Every plant has protein.
We know this.
Videos covering protein requirements and amino acids and all this stuff in detail. So unless you're in a very specific situation like very old person, frail, with impaired appetite, or if you're starving, you're just not getting enough calories, unless you're in a very specific class like that, you're getting more protein than you need, whether you choose to eat animal products or not. The vast majority of people...
Okay, so again, this is all the stuff I was teaching people and believing 100% wholeheartedly 10 years ago. And I was a vegan mostly, like I said, and partly vegetarian just once in a while. But the point is I was already teaching people this, and now that's come up for question for me. And I really do question it. I'm not saying it's impossible to be vegan and be completely the most optimally healthy, but I do question that now that I am not eating a vegan diet anymore because of some of the changes that I've experienced.
People in our society get more protein than they need. It's just not a concern. It's ironic that we're all running around yanking our hair out, worrying about protein. Am I getting enough protein? Where do you get your protein? Truth is, it's one of the nutrients you need to worry the least about. As long as you eat enough calories, you're getting enough protein. It's that simple.
That's what I used to always tell everybody. As long as you're eating enough calories, you're getting enough protein. However, that's definitely not true.
Same goes for amino acids, by the way. You don't need to worry about combining any special foods. You can get all the amino acids you need from plants or from animals. Your call. If you choose...
When I say that, I mean you could have a pretty limiting diet. And if you are doing certain things, you might need a little bit more protein than other people. So yeah, for the most part, if you're eating a nice whole foods, plant-based diet, and you're eating enough calories, probably you're going to get enough protein. But there are exceptions to that.
To avoid animal products, just make sure you're eating a variety of plants, as unprocessed as possible, ideally whole plants, from all the groups, legumes, whole grains, nuts and seeds, fruits and vegetables. And you're going to get all the protein you need and all the amino acids you need. No need to worry. Same with calcium. You can get it from animal products, like dairy, or you can get it from plants. Your call. In fact, some of the richest sources of calcium are plants. Things like kale, collard greens, they have more calcium than milk, and it's actually more bioavailable, more...
Okay, yeah, these plants have more calcium than milk by weight, but you have to eat more of them to get the calcium. And the question that's come up from a lot of people recently is, are these nutrients really bioavailable? Meaning, do you really use these nutrients as well as you do from animal products? That is a question that has come up more recently for a lot of people. And yeah, what does the science say, Gil Carvalho? Maybe you can point that out to us, and maybe somebody like Bart Kay or Shawn Baker MD could come in here and just answer some of these questions and show where the science differs on this.
Absorbable. So if you eat dairy, that's going to give you plenty of calcium. If you're somebody who's avoiding animal foods, just make sure you're eating a variety of plants, ideally unprocessed whole plants, and have some leafy greens in there, things like kale, collard greens. You're going to get all the calcium you need. Exact same thing with iron. Surprise, surprise. You can get it from animals or plants. Plenty of iron in both. Now, there are some things we need to be aware of on each side. People who eat animal products, they should be aware of heme iron. About 40% of the iron in red meat, for example, is heme iron. Heme iron is a pro-oxidant that's been linked to a number of diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and some types of cancer. So just be aware of that and don't lean too hard on the heme iron-rich foods. On the other hand, if you don't eat animal products, you need to be aware of absorption, especially if you're a woman. Women need more iron than men. Iron is in all types of plants, legumes, grains, greens, seeds, chia seeds, and sesame seeds have it on. Try to have some source of vitamin C with your meals, like fruits or vegetables. It increases absorption of non-heme iron. And
So yes, this is all the stuff I was saying 10 years ago. Yeah, you can get plenty of iron from plants. If you eat more vitamin C, it's going to help you absorb it better. Interesting enough that everybody used to claim that heme iron was the right iron. And so now the question comes back up again. What really is the better iron? Good question.
avoid tea and coffee during meals. Also, onion and garlic help absorption of non-heme iron as well. Now, if you're a vegetarian, you should be aware that eggs and dairy are not good sources of iron, so you're actually going to be getting most of your iron from the plant foods. So bottom line, you can get plenty of iron from animal foods or plant foods, your call. Just be aware of the caveats on each side and play with that. All right? Next. They can be extremely healthy lifestyles. We all understand that just because somebody is a vegetarian or a vegan doesn't automatically mean they're healthy. It also doesn't automatically mean they're deficient in any nutrient either. Those are
I agree with that. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're healthy if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, and it doesn't mean you're unhealthy. It depends on a lot of factors.
misconceptions. As long as you're eating a variety of unprocessed plants of all groups, you're going easy on the vegan junk food and all that processed stuff, and you're covering some basics like B12. Yes, that can be an extremely healthy lifestyle. No, you're not going to be deficient in any nutrients, and you may be at lower risk for some common diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and Alzheimer's, for example.
So yeah, true. You might be at lower risk for some diseases, especially heart disease. The question comes up about the quality of the nutrients and can you thrive on that diet. I know for a fact that for 5.5 years straight, I didn't have any dairy, any honey. I was 100% a strict vegan, specifically because I wanted to make sure that I did this experiment correctly. And I did it for a long time, and I did it as good as anybody has done it. And I still question whether that was optimally healthy. I think I feel a little bit better now that I am not a strict vegan.
If you don't eat animal products, you need to be aware of B12. Even if you eat animal products, you should still be aware that B12 deficiency is surprisingly common, even among people who eat animal products, especially above a certain age. There's three basic sources of B12: animal foods, fortified foods, and supplements. And
Okay, 3 sources of B12: animal foods, fortified foods, and supplements. So this is where I really take issue. Okay, so animal foods have vitamin B12. People that eat animal foods are sometimes still B12 deficient. So is it okay to supplement? Yeah, sure. Have I supplemented with B12? Yes. And I have no problem with that. But the point is then he says fortified foods. So now we're talking about supplements. And this is where I really take issue. Fine, good. Take supplements if you want to. But the question really is do you want to depend on supplements? And do you need to depend on supplements? So he says fortified foods is where you can get your B12. I personally, throughout my whole vegan experience, I always avoided to the extreme any kind of fortification of foods. And even now that I'm using some dairy products, I avoid fortified dairy. I avoid extra vitamin D in milk. I avoid extra vitamin A in milk. I only want what the actual food is, not the supplements in them. If I want to supplement, I want to add the supplement myself. And you know what? We have had no issues with avoiding fortified foods. The point is that it's not really a very honest thing to say you can be a vegan as long as you eat fortified foods. Because fortified foods that's basically taking supplements. So if you want to be in whole foods vegan, can you do it? That's a good question. Yes, you can. Can you be optimally healthy? I'm not sure.
they're all equally effective. They all get you more B12 than you need. It's a personal choice.
It's a personal choice, he says.
I know, if you're watching the headlines, it can seem sometimes like scientists hate meat or they have something personal against it. It's nothing personal. Truth is, the majority of scientists eat meat. It's not like they're sitting there plotting ways to trash animal products. It's just that red flags keep coming up over and over. Cholesterol, saturated fat, heme iron, we've talked about those. More recently, something called TMAO, and there's many others. So the science just keeps revealing new risks associated with consumption of animal foods. Now, it's impossible to tell somebody specific, you can eat these many steaks and these many eggs before it's a problem, and before that, you're totally safe. Science doesn't give us that info because there's a fair amount of variability. But what seems consistent is that as the amount and frequency of consumption of animal products rises, the risk of disease also rises. So that's why nutrition scientists are generally in agreement in recommending whole plants. Now, some people will go all the way and be 100% plant-based, be plant exclusive. Others will have a lot of unprocessed plants and will have some animal products here and there. That's your call. What's important is that you try to get the bulk of your nutrients and the bulk of your calories from whole plants.
Now, I could understand and relate to that. The question does still come up, are whole plants really good for you? And I would say that I'm still eating them. I do believe that they are probably good for you. But there's a lot of people that are saying that the anti-nutrients in plants make it so that it's actually not good for anybody to eat them. I personally don't have that experience myself. However, there is truth in those statements that there are anti-nutrients. The question really comes down to, are those anti-nutrients totally disabled by cooking some of them? And for the most part, most of them are. But there's a lot of questions that come up with that, and if you're consuming those types of anti-nutrients consistently, do they cause you to not thrive? That's my big question.
So that podcast I recently did cover this topic as well. We talked about this for like 20 or 30 minutes. Bottom line is, the associations are a concern because they consistently point in the same direction. But the main problem is that all types of science, all types of experiment, both association type and intervention type, point in the same general direction. So the general picture is pretty clear, which is why the recommendations are so consistent to favor fruits and vegetables and legumes and whole grains, and go easy on the saturated fat and the cholesterol and the ultra-processed foods. I hear this one all the time, so I actually made a bunch of videos.
How do I lower my
detail.
cholesterol?
Now the good news is it's exactly what we've been talking about. Go easy on the saturated fat and the cholesterol and some of the heavily processed foods, and your cholesterol will come down. That's it in a nutshell, basically. There are a couple more tricks and nuances, and you can check out the videos if you want more.
So I think we've pretty much covered it. Yes, eating lower or eating less cholesterol foods or foods that contain cholesterol will definitely lower your cholesterol. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And eliminating foods that contain cholesterol from your diet will definitely lower your cholesterol, and that could be beneficial to your heart. So again, for Gil Carvalho MD and PhD, Nutrition Made Simple, I'm calling you out just to show us the science, really show us the preponderance and make the arguments for your case. I would love to believe that what you're saying is true. However, I do question it, especially with all of the new information that is coming out from other really informed people that have kind of brought these ideas that you've presented as they are come up for question. Also, I would like to call out Bart Kay and Shawn Baker to check out Dr. Gil Carvalho of Nutrition Made Simple and just basically review what he has to say and give us your opinion. And that's why I'm doing this here. This is not to cut Gil Carvalho or put him down in any way. 100% respect. I just want to clarify for people that I don't think he's a vegan, and he's telling you that you don't need meat at all, and he's probably eating meat himself. So probably we should question his advice if he hasn't actually experienced being vegan. So again, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. If you like this style of content that I did today, please let me know, and I'll do some more like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.